welcome to our Give Live today. It is November 18th, and I'm so super excited to be here and welcome both Emily Hutchison and Lauren Bersaglio here with me today. Let me tell you a little bit about who they are real quick. I'm going to introduce Lauren first. Lauren, I keep telling her she's my sidekick for the day. She is my co-host. She is an amazing Give user. She runs some amazing nonprofits, amazing content writer, etc. Let me tell you a little bit in her words who she is. She's a writer, speaker, and dedicated mental health advocate based in Vancouver, Canada. She is the founder of Libero Magazine. Check it out if you're interested. It's a nonprofit online mental health community. She has a degree in communications, over 10 years of experience with online writing, nonprofit management, and public speaking. Lauren, thank you so much for being here with me today. Couldn't think of a better co-host.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is gonna be so cool because we're gonna grill Emily about everything.
Great, thanks.
This is Emily Hutchison. Emily is the director of philanthropy at Northeastern Vermont Regional Hospital, which she defines as rural, I think was the word you used.
Yes.
Absolutely. She's got more than 25 years of experience in nonprofit leadership, fundraising, program development, and board management. Her fundraising experience includes management of all aspects of comprehensive fundraising program in both higher education and community nonprofit organizations. And as I said, she's currently the director of philanthropy at a very rural hospital, which is actually Critical Access Hospital up in Vermont. So thank you, Emily, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited just to give people a little bit of the backstory. You and I had been talking, as most people should know, I'm the head of customer success for Give WP. So I am in such a wonderful position that I get to talk to so many of our amazing customers. And as I get to know people, I look at their websites, and I looked at Emily's website. And first of all, she was delightful to talk to. So as most of our customers are, but it was really fun to kind of have this go back and forth that we were working on stuff. And I looked at your website and I was like, holy cow. Like, that's awesome. How much did you raise? And I'm going to let you tell this exciting amount in a minute, but you did such an amazing job with an online event during COVID that I was like, would you like to tell your story with Give WP? And you graciously agreed. So thank you so much for being here and just sharing all the success that you've all had. So let's just start off with that first question, is to tell us a little bit about your hospital and your fundraising needs and what led to doing your online event.
Okay.
Give us the backstory.
So like you said, we are a rural critical access hospital, and that's actually a federal designation. It's meant to, there's some support for the federal government to ensure that rural parts of the country have access to healthcare. And so we are a 25-bed hospital. That's what critical access means. And so most of the patients we see are with us for less than 4 days. If they needed significant care, very specialized care, long-term care, they would be transferred to what's called a tertiary center. So the closest ones for us, people may have heard of, is Dartmouth Medical Center, Dartmouth Hitchcock, or the University of Vermont Medical Center. And so we are in what's called the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. And that's the actual title, the Northeast Kingdom. And so it's the Northeast part of Vermont. It's incredibly rural. And in our service area, we have about 30,000 people, but in the town that I'm in, it's a town of 5,500. So if that gives you an idea of where I'm at.
I think you should petition for a new title, knowing now that you're in the kingdom and that you are the queen of philanthropy. I think that you should be the queen
I didn't wear my
of
crown.
Philanthropy.
I was
your
going
kingdom.
to. But it all makes sense now, right? No. So
Absolutely.
we're a nonprofit hospital. We are one of the few, it's becoming one of the few, that we are not affiliated with a larger network at all. Mm-hmm. And we are a nonprofit, so we do fundraising. We are fortunate that we are financially strong, but we do rely on fundraising for extra things that we may need, special programs, certainly if we have capital projects, extra pieces of equipment or new pieces of equipment that may have not ended in the budget for that year, so we do rely on fundraising to fund special projects and things that we need.
Mm-hmm. Even larger hospitals. I mean, I live in Rochester, New York. The University of Rochester Medical Center, which is part of University of Rochester, of course, they're doing fundraising constantly, you know, and so I know every, major medical center is doing that. You have the distinction of being a 25-bed hospital that still meets the needs of all the people from, I'm guessing, childbirth to trauma and everything in between.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a great birth center. We have a great emergency department. We're very fortunate. I mean, obviously, I'm biased, and I'm going to say wonderful things about our hospital, but it really
Yeah.
is pretty unique. Even though we're tucked away here, the head of our emergency department is nationally board certified. He did a specialty in trauma. So even though we aren't a trauma center, we don't have a trauma center, we can provide some very high level services at our hospital. And like you said, hospitals, nonprofits, it doesn't matter our size. Everyone's out there raising money, right?
Mhm.
Because usually whatever the business is bringing in, the business of the nonprofit isn't enough to cover
Yeah.
everything we need. And that's certainly true for hospitals as well. I mean, people say,
Mhm.
wow, my bill is so expensive. How can you need money? You must have tons of money. Well, that money goes to a lot of places. It doesn't at the end of the day go to the hospital mostly. And so we are in the same boat as the local nonprofit who's raising money to meet the needs in their community.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And when I visited your website, the first thing I saw is that you have just a standard donation form for kind of general fundraising, which is what we always recommend to any organization who's doing fundraising. But what really piqued my interest was this fundraising with a twist, and that
Yeah.
was a specific fundraising for a specific purpose. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, like a lot of people, a lot of organizations during COVID, we had to change a lot of what we do in a normal year, right? And so we had to cancel a couple of the fundraising events that we normally do. We normally do a radiothon, but even though it was a radiothon, there's a lot of in person things happening. And so we had to cancel that. That's usually in the spring, right when COVID hit. We normally do a gala where we gather people together in someone's beautiful private home in the area and have a couple hundred people and engage some of our top donors. We weren't able to do that. We did do some successful fundraising for our COVID needs as a hospital, but we really wanted to still be able to do some community fundraising beyond just the mailed letters. And, just like everyone, it's a challenge to engage people during COVID, right? We're not meeting with people in person. And so we started to think about what we could do. And one of the things that we decided, maybe because of our own burnout, we're like, we cannot do a Zoom event. Like we are so tired. And this is fabulous. I'm not putting this live Zoom in the same thing. But in
No
terms
offense
of
taken.
events, we just felt like people were getting so burned out of only being able to connect with each other in that way. We also had some challenges when we thought about virtual events. We're one of the few places in the country that a lot of our area does not have high speed internet.
Mhm.
It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of places that don't even have data service. If I drive 20 minutes away from the hospital, I have zero data. And so we couldn't rely on just that. We also have a lot of people in our area. We have one of the oldest populations in our state and in the country, in our region. And so we know a lot of our older donors aren't super tech savvy when it comes to the internet. I know some are, but a lot aren't. And so we had all of these layers of things that we had to be really aware of in order to
Mhm.
build out a successful event.
And what was this
So,
event specifically raising money for?
pardon me?
This event was specifically raising money for what purpose?
Okay, so it so happened it worked out beautifully that the timing was that we would be running the event during October. So we raised money for breast care and treatment services at NVRH. And so it tied nicely with the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Mhm.
And it's also, I think that's a really good point when we do any kind of fundraising events, but especially I think virtual events where we might not have all those individual personal touches we might normally have, to pick a cause that's really going to resonate with your audience,
Mhm.
resonate broadly. And so, I think that helped us be successful as well.
Absolutely. And how much money did you raise? Because this is the part that like blew my mind.
Well, you say that, but I'm sure there's people listening from very large nonprofits and they raise tons of money, but
It's all relative, and that's why
it is all relative.
and that's
So
why I was so impressed.
yeah, we raised $38,000 on this event. And I will say that that only included one $5,000 sponsorship from a business. We intentionally did not reach out to businesses for a couple different reasons that were right for us. They had given generously to a COVID fund, and so we didn't want to go back to them so soon. So we were very proud that we did so well, and obviously I'll tell you a little bit about the event and how it was structured, but it was so unique and new, and no one had ever done anything like this that we were aware of, that we didn't even know how to set a goal. And so my goal was to raise $1 more than our expenses. And I know that's horrible, right? All you sophisticated fundraisers out there listening, you want an aspirational goal that encourages people, but we really didn't know what kind of goal to set. And so we initially, we knew we'd have about $5,000 in expenses for printing, and I'll talk about what we actually ended printing, and some on-air radio expenses. But we set a goal for 20,000. That's one of the things that I want to encourage people, is that during a pandemic, when you're doing things that are new and creative, give yourself a little bit of a break. And don't be afraid to try something new, but be aware that there can be a lot of benefits other than just the money, and I'll talk about some of those benefits a little later, because there were definitely some benefits beyond just the funds raised, but that helped take the pressure off. And I work at a great organization where my philanthropy committee of the board, and my CEO, they were all good with us trying this, and they had very modest expectations about the outcome. So they, of course, that's even better, right? When you do really well, because then everyone's absolutely thrilled.
Oh, you almost doubled your goal. That's awesome.
There you go. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but you're right. Our goal was 20 and we made almost 40.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Way accomplished. Absolutely. That's really cool. So you've done radio type things in the past. One of the things that you mentioned when you and I had talked earlier a few weeks back, I have this mental image now, because you told me that there are people who don't even get radio signals where they live.
Yeah.
So some people had actually driven places in their car to be able to hear the songs and things like that. So tell us a little bit about that, because I'm picturing people like, where I gotta get there really. Wait, hey Ma, is the radio turned in yet? All of these ideas.
Yes, and that's one of the things we learned. So let me just give you sort of the structure of the event so people can understand that. And I'll tell you, that is one of the challenging things with doing something new and doing something virtually, is explaining to people what you're doing and what you're asking them to participate in. So that's obviously when the communication becomes really important. And so in as an overview, what the event was we did an invitation that looked very similar to what we would have normally sent out for a gala at about the same time, because we knew people were used to receiving a gala invitation, but probably a lot of them assumed they wouldn't receive anything. And so we sent this really great gala invitation. It looked just like they were being invited to the gala, but with some of the fun, pencil crossed out, instead of, please don't join us, those kinds of things. And what we did is we asked people to make the same level of gift that they would as if they were coming to the gala. So normally it would be $150 for a gala ticket, a portion of which is a charitable gift. But if they gave at the $500 or above level, they could ask for a song to be dedicated. And what we did is we took over a local successful call-in radio show called Flashback Friday on sort of the popular music radio show in the area. It's on Friday nights, and they allowed us to take over that 3-hour show. And so the entire show became the call in, the song dedications that people were given in exchange for their gifts to this event. And so there were different levels. So at $150, you could have your song dedicated and it as part of this event. If it was $500 or $300, Sean would read, Sean is our CEO, would read the dedication. If it was 500 or more, Sean would sing a portion of the song along with it live on the radio. And I will say, having someone in your organization, your CEO, someone, maybe the president of your board, someone who's well respected in your community, who's willing to go along with a really zany idea, is a great thing. And so I would encourage everyone to think about who in your organization can you get to do something unique and fun and different, and support it in that way. So we sort of started out with that concept, and the radio show was sort of locked down, that whole concept. But then we thought, well, first of all, not everyone gets the radio signal. Worse than that, not everyone has radios anymore. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of people just don't have radios. And so we thought, well,
Yeah.
how can we get people involved in this, even if they don't have a radio? So the show said that they would live stream in studio during the radio show. Because what we discovered sort of later in the process is they don't live stream their radio show online. A lot of radios you can
Right.
listen to through an app or
Mhm.
online. Again, very small rural area. It's just not an expense that they had in their budget. So people could watch the live stream of the radio show happening while it was happening, and see Sean in the studio and him singing. The best way to do it was to listen to the radio and watch the live stream, because while the song was playing, the live stream of the radio show became everyone who was in the studio prepping to announce the next song. It was like this chaotic thing. But it was really, really fun for people to see that. We went in, we decorated it like a disco studio. There were disco balls, there were lights. It was the best the radio station ever looked. Um, and so, but then it's funny how when you try and do something new and creative, sometimes that creativity starts snowballing. So then we thought, okay, so we have the radio listeners locked down, and we have people who use social media locked down because they can watch it live. But what about people who are not social media users? So what we did is we embedded the live stream on our hospital website, so that all people had to do was go to the hospital website and they can watch the live stream of the show. The other thing, because there wasn't enough going on, right? Not enough on the list, um, is we decided to offer prizes to encourage people to participate that evening by sending us photos and video clips of them participating in their home. And so that was the way in which we got people to feel like they were participating that night and not just listening in. Um, Again, we didn't want them to have to participate via a Zoom meeting with 40 or 50 other people on tiny little screens. So we also ran a Facebook event at the same time.
Right.
And so we were monitoring that evening. So people were sending in photos and of them decorated in their home. We had people sending in videos of them dancing, and there were prizes for that. And so we had a lot of different elements happening. We also did a community wide solicitation to support this and give people throughout the community an opportunity to join us. So that was something new. Usually the gala invitation goes to just a certain group of people, but this was really opened up to the community. Um, and so there was a lot of different elements. But what I would say is one of the things that we kept a focus on was, yes, we wanted to raise money, but we also wanted people to have fun, because it's been really, really hard this year, right? During the pandemic, people don't get to see each other. Vermont has some of the strictest rules about leaving your house, where you're supposed to go, staying away from other people. And so we really wanted to provide an opportunity for people to have fun. And it really achieved that. And that was one of my proudest successes of the entire thing, is that we got so much feedback from community members just saying how much fun it was to listen. And even for the days after, people kept sending us videos. Our favorites were the ones of them and their kids dancing, and the kids waking up the next morning and saying, "Mommy, can we listen to the radio and dance again?" Right? Like, what 5-year-old these days says, "Mommy, can we listen to the radio and dance?" Right? And so it was new for the kids. So it was a really fun way to engage the entire community.
That's
That's
so cool.
wonderful. Yeah.
So I have a question because I'm a huge Give nerd and I do a lot of fundraising. So how specifically did you use Give to run and manage the actual donation aspect of this?
So I love Give. We are new to Give in the last year. Prior to my arrival at the hospital, we had some homegrown donation forms, and anyone who's ever used homegrown donation forms
Yeah.
knows that what that means.
Yep.
Um,
We understand. We solved
yeah,
that pain.
and thank goodness we had them at a time when that was all that was available. But now we have great products like Give. So we switched over to Give about a year ago, and like Michelle said, we have a general donation form on our website. But this was the first time we did a custom form for an event, and it was super fun to work on. And what's so great about Give is it's so easy, right? It's so easy to build those things. I mean, I'm not super techy, but I can, check a box and fill in a word. And so that was great. So we created a form specific to this event. It had a place that people could say that they were doing a song dedication. They could put in the name of the song, who it was dedicated to. And of course, it was branded, so we could use the photography, the graphics that had been developed for the event. Um, and so when they clicked on, the Give link, from whether they got a mailing, we did a lot of email promotion, and I want to talk a little bit about the promotion we did because that was one of the funnest parts of the event. But it went directly to that form, right, instead of the general form and the twist event just being one drop down. And so we were also able to update things that we were putting on that make it look different. The day after the event, we took down one of the things and had a thank you with dancers and holding thank you signs on that form. So we were able to also quickly and easily modify it as we moved. And so it was great to be able to build out the form in that way. I will share with everyone one of the things that we learned is double and triple check your forms. So the
Always.
donation form was a rock star. The donation form was absolutely perfect. We built, when we first launched the Give donation forms, an email that we received to tell us a new gift has come in, and we can put different links in there, right? Like, I call them mail merges, but they're the meta,
Yeah.
right? The
Yep.
The email meta tags, I
the
think,
meta
right?
tags, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I embedded the meta tag, not the email meta tag.
Yeah. I've
So when
made
we
that
got
mistake.
all of those forms saying that we've gotten this great $500 gift, this $300 gift, I was like, I said to Jen, my associate director, I was like, I guess people just aren't choosing that option. They must not want to dedicate a song. And we had a lot of those come in on the written invitation that we did. And so just a couple days before the event, I went into the back end and I was like, there's like 12 more song dedications that we didn't know about because I messed up the form. So that's just to say, gives a great product, but it's only as good as the end user. And so, and I had even tested it, but not in the way it really needed to be tested. And so, but that's another, had I done it correctly, that's another great way that could have helped us manage. We'll say it did. We'll pretend I did it right. So when we got those email notifications that another gift came in. I mean, you can always go into Give and pull reports and things like that, but it's nice
Sure.
to have that immediate notification
Yeah.
and be able
Mhm.
to embed all of the information you need in that moment. And so for
Mhm.
like Lauren, if you're, raising money for something happening in Africa or for specific kiddos, to be able to have all of that right in. So right when you're processing that gift in the office, you have the information in front of you. So that's one of the things I really love about Give. That would have never been possible with
With
the
the homegrown.
homegrown form.
This is
That
this is a good place for this is a good place for me to say that y'all have access to the customer success team. So if it had been a bigger alert to you, you could have reached out to us. We could have helped you solve that too.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny, before today's our chat today, I wanted to go in and figure out what I did wrong, and I literally had the phone in my hand ready to dial the customer support because I knew that you would like tell
Yeah.
me exactly. I was like, oh, I see what I did wrong. So, but I will say that's true. I mean, I think a lot of us use a lot of vendors for a lot of the different
Sure.
types of things that we do in fundraising. But one of the things that I really love about Give is that I can always get someone,
Yeah.
right? It's they answer or they email right back. And I have some other vendors that have great products, but I might have to send an email and the next day I might hear from someone, or they trio, so I just love that we can always get
Yeah.
that immediate support from Give.
Thank you. We're pretty proud of our team, and we like
Yeah.
that we can help y'all be successful. That's why we have a customer success team in the first place. Fantastic. So how did you get the word out to engage your donors? I know you sent out some, the gala, the non things like that. You did social.
Yeah.
What other ways did you, engage with people prior to the event?
Right. So in fundraising, I think we all are aware that it's really important to do multi-channel marketing for what
Mhm.
we're doing. And I think that that's important. Um, I believe that that's important, even if you're going to do an online virtual event or online and or virtual event,
Mhm.
is that if you really want to be as successful as possible and reach as many people as possible, you really have to think beyond just, well, I'm just going to send an email or I'm just going to make a post on our social media. You really have to
Mhm.
think about all the different ways that people communicate and receive information. And so, like you said, we sent that traditional gala invitation, we sent a more traditional um, community appeal letter. We did social media posts, we did those things. But one of the things that we did that was super fun, and I thought Jen and people were crazy when they suggested this. I thought they were crazy the whole way along. I was just like, just tell me what to do. I'm going to sit in my office, tell me what you need me to do.
But they
um,
were 38,000 kinds of crazy, which turned
they
out to be awesome.
were. And I will say right up front, I'm not the most creative person. And so that's another thing that I think we've all probably have learned if we've had any success in fundraising. You have to have a lot of different people on your team because everyone thinks differently.
Mhm.
And, I can rock the heck out of writing a report or drafting a letter, but I'm not really creative. So um the idea was to do a series of promotional videos of people dancing. And so then we said, well, let's use the hospital staff and have a series of promo videos from hospital staff dancing. And yes, anyone listening can still go to the NVRH YouTube page, and that's where we put them, that's where we link them from, and see these promotional videos. And a couple things. We didn't want to spend a lot of money. We weren't going to have a professional videographer come in. We weren't going to have someone professionally produce these. We wanted them to look like we did them because we did them. And I think we also all know in fundraising that being authentic and genuine resonates really well with your donors, and they like that and they respect it. They don't expect things to be super slick all the time. Um, and so we went around and started asking teams at the hospital if they would do this crazy thing. And so we got people on board. Jen was fabulous at getting people on board with that. And so, for example, we had the team, our surgical services team, and we had our COVID testing tent team, and we had our maintenance. They were hysterical. one of the biggest hits was we shot a video of the IS team. And so what we told these teams was pick a song, and we made sure that no one was picking the same songs. Um, and do a dance. It doesn't have to be super rehearsed. It doesn't have to be super choreographed. Just have fun. And we really had the whole gamut. We had some groups just kind of having fun. We had groups like the IS team who choreographed the Michael Jackson dance,
Mhm.
Billie Jean, and they had all black on. They had one glove. It was a surgical glove. It was hysterical. And they did this dance on the helipad of the hospital. And so what we did is we shot, 2-3 minutes of all of these different groups dancing. And we did have a board member. Again, it was not highly produced, but we did have a board member um, to do some video editing. And we ended up with basically 30-second clips. So we'd have 30-second clips. So we had about a minute and a half video, and we did 6 of those videos. And we said
Nice.
who was in the video. We had this scrolling thing, party with a twist and the date, and go to our website for more information. So we had a lot of fun with that. And so we posted them to social media. We did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the 2 weeks out from the Friday event. We loaded them as a group in a philanthropy e-newsletter that we do. We asked people to share them on social media. We posted them on our web page. So that was a really fun element. And people started asking, "Oh, is today the day the next video is coming out? I need to share it with my mom." Um, and and so that was another success to the event that I'm really proud of, that really meant a lot to me, is that this time has been really draining for healthcare professionals, right? And
Sure.
this gave them a time to have a lot of fun and
Yeah.
to just relax. And so while we did not have poor morale or low morale to begin with, I can say that this was a huge morale booster. and
Nice.
and I think that's another thing we learned, is that a lot of times when we do fundraising, we make some assumptions or some decisions about who should be involved in that process, and don't necessarily include everyone in the organization. And sometimes it's just for practical reasons. But what
Mhm.
we really learned in this is that there were a lot of people who are willing to be really silly and goofy to support a great cause, and they were so happy to be asked to help, to the point that after all the videos were already done and produced, we had people coming into our office. Like, we had one of the surgeons plopping down in the chair and say, I want to do another video. I want my group to do a video. And so we shot some extra videos even after the schedule was all filled out and they were ready. And we posted them up to Facebook because we wanted everyone to feel involved. But we did learn that some of the people that we thought, you think people you work with, and who would be willing to participate in fundraising, who would be willing to help promote something online, who would, you make some assumptions about that. And we learned that we were wrong in a lot of times. Some of the people who we perceived as sort of the maybe the driest, who aren't really that way, were pretty crazy off the wall. So
They
I
just
think
needed an
that's
outlet.
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think that was another thing I think to keep in mind. Virtual things give us an opportunity to be creative in ways
Mhm.
that traditional print media, I mean, you can be creative in traditional print media, but it's really limitless when you talk
Mm.
about online platforms and things that are virtual, and being able to shoot and share video. And so, in the healthcare world, we're often talking about what has been silver linings when it comes to COVID. Not that we would
Mhm.
ever want COVID again or any kind of
Right.
pandemic again, but what new ways of doing things have we
Mhm.
learned that have made us even better at what we do, and better at engaging people who want to support our cause. And
Mhm.
so you have to have an open mind when you do something new, but it can produce great benefits for you.
Now, in a hospital setting, you probably don't want to use the term go viral, but I'm going to ask if if any of your social media reached outside the kingdom, did you find that you had any donations coming from outside the geographic area that you might have expected?
So that's a really good question. And we would have loved that to be the case. We had a few, but not as many as we hoped for.
Mhm.
Um, but we did have, but I will say that we have a YouTube channel that we don't normally promote or put a lot on. So any of you who take the time to look at these videos, please don't be disparaging in your head about the lack of any other content on our hospital's YouTube channel. Um, so, um, so we did reach outside of people that we normally would have reached. We had a lot of employees and donors and people associated with us sharing it with their family and friends.
Mhm.
And so, from a PR perspective, as a hospital, PR for someone in another state for us doesn't do us a lot of good when it comes to
Sure.
fundraising, but that's not the case for other organizations. So, like Lauren,
Right.
your organization, to have someone sending and sharing to their friends and family in another state could be huge,
It's everything.
right? And
Yeah.
and no one's going to just share, oh look, we're doing this fun fundraiser, but they will share the heck out of videos of themselves, dancing with a balloon with, just
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So
Absolutely.
that was the case. Certainly, again, with our fundraising, we did get some general community donations come in ahead of time and that evening. um, Not as many as we maybe would have hoped, but it was a great promotion for the hospital. And not that the hospital necessarily needs to promote itself. It's kind of like they say, why does toilet paper do ads? Like, why do you ad companies right? Like, do you really need to advertise toilet paper?
Right.
Maybe a bad example during the pandemic, but anytime you can use an opportunity to talk about the good work that your organization is doing is a win. And
Yeah.
so we know, because we heard back from a lot of people in the community that weren't normally donors, maybe didn't give to this event, but they saw those things and they heard those things and they watched those videos and they thought it was so cool. And so anytime you can build your reputation, right, and get
Mhm.
your word out there, that's a good thing, because fundraising is not a one-off game, right?
Right.
It's a marathon. It is long term. And so we rely on that person who thought that was a really cool, neat way to support breast care and treatment at MVRH, to then maybe down the road think of making a gift. And
Right.
so did it go viral? No. If we got, 500-600 views on a video on our YouTube channel when we usually get 30, I think that's kind of viral for us.
That counts.
It's all relative, like we said. It's all
That's
relative.
right.
Absolutely. What advice do you have for other people who are thinking about doing online events, especially having to pivot from what they're used to doing in person events? Is there, like, if you could say that there's one or two things that you would say specifically, what would they be?
Um, okay. So, one, I would say, even if it's online, do not abandon your other ways of communicating with people. And I had touched on this before. We know whether it's an online event, we know whether it's a Giving Tuesday event, we know that the ultimate success of those events comes from that multi channel marketing and talking about it with people in all the ways that you have, whether it's mailings, whether it's your newsletter, whether you have free ad time on a local radio station for public service announcements, whether it's the local newspaper, whether it's your social media or your YouTube channel. You really need to think broadly and not just think, okay, I'm going to do an online Facebook event and that's the only place you talk about it. I mean, so you really have to, I would encourage everyone to really think about all the ways they have of communicating with people so they can have a successful event. I would also say, really think about who your audience is. And so if it's a virtual event, I mean, maybe your audience is millennials and they're all living in Snapchat and you do something on Snapchat. God bless you. I mean, that's great. But just because you have to move to doing something virtually online, really think about who you're trying to communicate with and how best to reach them. Um, and I guess that goes back to the multi-channel marketing.
Absolutely.
I think those are my biggest pieces of advice. And then, like I said earlier, be creative, try something new. We have minimal expenses when we do these types of things online. And so we really have a great opportunity, unlike when we're, do a mailing for 30,000, you got to get it right because you have a big investment
Right.
in the design and mailing. You can just try different things and see what works for your organization, see what works for your support base, because there's so little investment up front of money. There's that really nice ability to just be wacky and try different things, see what works.
I love it. And the gold jacket. We haven't mentioned the gold jacket yet. The gold jacket. The wackiest
well, I'm going to
part.
have Jen just come over here, and so if you haven't seen all our stuff, you won't understand the gold jacket, but I will tell you that there's the gold jacket. Jen was the one who this was her baby. She's fantastic. She's incredibly creative. Thank you, Jen. She was asked to participate, but she said, no, that's okay. I can do it.
She just wanted to be the
We all
gold
have
jacket.
different interests and strengths, and she's a great public speaker, but it wasn't her thing, she said. But she, so for Halloween, so we're a hospital, but we dress up for Halloween because we're a fun hospital. And and she came as gold member. She was gold from head to toe and stroked this and did this really great pose that someone got a photo of. And we ended up using that in all our promotional materials. So for more information or contact us at, it was Jen standing like this, which we were able to clip out the background, right? And so we plastered that all over the place. The other thing that happened, so the one thing that did go viral for us is that our chief medical officer was coming by her office and wanted to know what the gold jacket was, and he put it on, and we took a picture of that. And someone, not me,
I think it was Jen.
it was Jen. Posted it to her Facebook page and tagged him. I think it's his wife has a Facebook page. And that kind of went viral in his world. And he is a really good egg, but he came to us and said, you can't tag me anymore. He came from Mass General. And so he had people harassing him. He's one of 6 or 7 kids. All his brothers and sisters were giving him a hard time. But you know what? He didn't really care. He walked around the entire morning in that jacket. He went to meetings in the jacket. And talk about promoting event amongst your staff. I mean, we have 800 employees at our hospital. And again, the more you can get people involved in promoting your event, talking about your event, being excited about your event, that gets other people excited, right? It's not just I'm the fundraiser, I'm sitting in my office, I have to come up with something and do something. It really changes the entire feel of an event when people get involved in a fun way like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Fantastic. Lauren, what questions do you have first?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation here.
No. So one question that I did have, you mentioned that you had one sponsor around 5,000, and then you had various tiers for donations. And I mean, I did like kind of a hack math job, and around $35,000 by about 170 donors was about $200 per donor roughly. But I'm just wondering, like, what was the breakdown? Was it mostly raised by kind of across the board? Most people gave a couple hundred, or did you have some micro donations where there were handfuls of people giving like $5, $10 and then big ones?
That's a great question. And had I known you were going to ask that, I would have the specific data for you. But
Sorry.
I can't. That's okay. That's okay. I don't feel
anecdotal is fine too.
embarrassed that I can't answer exactly. No, but so we had both. And I think it's important for everyone to feel valued in the giving process, right? For all your donors to feel like their donation matters. And so certainly with our gala invitation, that was targeted to people who normally give at that 150 or potential major donors. And so we got a lot of those gifts that way. But we got a lot of general community donations that were $10, $100. We did a lot. We have very generous employees. We have a great employee giving program. And so, Jen had her gold stuff on in the cafeteria one day with the boombox, and she was rocking it out. She also has these shoes that are like the LED lighting, and they
Oh
flash
yeah.
anyway. So so we had employees give $5 a piece and $10 a piece, and so there was a place for everyone. The other thing that we did is you were supposed to get a song dedication only if you gave at least $150. And we had some people write it in. I mean, I thought I made it very clear on the gift form. Um, but we tried to accommodate all of those as well, right? I mean, this isn't about standing on a principle when it comes to people
Right.
feeling good about their giving. I wasn't going to call someone and say, we only gave $100. We're not going to, do your song.
Too bad.
So, so yes, so we had people giving at all different levels. And, like I said, I think that's important. You never know, right? How many of us have wonderful stories about someone who's never given or only, given small gifts over time, but they felt appreciated and valued. And then they do make a big gift when the time comes for them to do that kind of thing. So it was across the board.
Nice.
Now, one of the things you mentioned before we started recording today was that I failed to put in a question that you wanted to answer. So tell us what the question was and what you wanted to answer.
I really talked about it already. It was the things
I thought you
learned.
might have. Yeah.
I'll throw in another thing though that I learned about doing a virtual event. And this is going to sound funny. Don't forget to take photos. So you think, well, it's a virtual event. What would we be taking a photo of? Well, we were doing a lot. We had a lot of elements that wouldn't be traditional in just a peer-to-peer fundraising event or something like that. We didn't take any photos, so we have a couple random that got taken just because we were being silly and having fun, and I sent some of those to you, Michelle. But don't forget to take photos
and screenshots. Even screenshots too of like the studio.
The radio station said we didn't get any screenshots, and we had they would have been great screenshots of just
next year. Now you know.
We had a surgeon in the studio during the event doing PSAs about breast health and things like that. I mean, we could have gotten great. And so again, we have a couple random screenshots that we gathered up, but don't forget photos, even if it's a virtual thing. But I think I've already talked about a lot of the things that we learned.
Wanted to make sure I was letting you talk about those things for sure.
Thank you.
Very good. Now I want to ask both of you, because you both have working with nonprofits. Do either of your organizations, I know actually Lauren, you have more than one organization. Are you doing anything for Giving Tuesday? Is there anything specific that your organization is doing to target Giving Tuesday, which is less than 2 weeks away?
So for us, I actually really appreciate what you said, Emily, about having realistic expectations, especially during COVID. So for Libra, we always do a Giving Tuesday fundraising event, but as of a few years ago, we actually shifted our focus. Our big fundraiser is in May for Mental Health Awareness Month, because we're a mental health organization, and Giving Tuesday is kind of our second biggest fundraiser. This year, it's definitely very kind of tempered back. The expectation is people are distracted. There's a lot going on in the world. Small businesses who we usually would turn to, they're, you don't want to, it's not the right time to turn to them for fundraising and stuff. So I'm still working out the details. For those who don't know, like I kind of just wear all the hats and do everything. So it's mostly me trying to figure out what I want to do for Giving Tuesday, but what we're thinking and what I'm thinking of doing is implementing a lot of gifts with donation this year. Because of COVID, a lot of people aren't hopefully going out to the malls and doing a lot of in-person shopping. And we have a product collaboration actually with a nonprofit in Africa, and they make handmade jewelry and these adorable, like that unicorn is one of them, like stuffed animals made out of socks, new socks. So we do a 50-50 partnership with them. So this year, what I want to try with Giving Tuesday, because it's so close to Christmas, and especially because of the push for more online shopping, is to really implement a gift with donation. So certain donation levels will get you a variety of Hope Art products. And the nice thing is then we're actually funding for our work at Libro, but we're also raising money for the women and children that Hope Art helps. So that's kind of our goal.
I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, and I wanna visit the website. So as soon as you've got that link up, let me know because I want
I
to
will
see it.
send it to you.
Awesome. And Emily, what is the hospital doing for Giving Tuesday, or are you doing anything?
So we are. I appreciate your comments, Lauren, about just staying realistic. And, um, so we're a shop of two. It's me and Jen. Um, although I think everything is relative, right? I came from a really big shop, but big shop, bigger goals, bigger,
Yeah.
more programs, so it's all comes down to the, one person is sitting in a room trying to knock out social media posts, right? Doesn't matter how big or little you are. So what we're going to do this year is, coming off such a successful event, we wouldn't I guess one thing I would say, I'll back up real quick, is that it's really important to think about how you schedule your fundraising. And I think we all know that, but sometimes things come up and happen that are outside the schedule. The whole COVID made everything outside our schedule,
Yeah.
right? Like our whole schedule got mixed up. And so this event came very late in the year. We would not have wanted to normally do something where we solicit our entire database so close to the end of the year, but we did. So what we're going to do for Giving Tuesday, we're going to use Giving Tuesday as the kickoff of our year-end appeal, which is, I know, the later than we should be kicking off a year-end appeal, but it is what it is. So we're going to use that Giving Tuesday to kick that off.
Nice.
We are featuring a story. We also wanted to be really careful, and I think a lot of nonprofits are struggling with this, particularly in healthcare this year, is there's been so much fundraising about COVID, to not lose the larger message
Mhm.
of, we're still here doing our work, whether we're healthcare or we're, about a women's shelter or something. We have to remember that we still want our donors giving to our core need and our core people that we're serving. And so it is an appeal for our annual fund for our greatest needs.
Mhm.
And we are using a COVID story, but it just happens because she has a great story about her love of the hospital and us saving her life. And
It's always a
um,
good thing.
yes, and that is the letters actually being penned and signed by one of the doctors who
Mm.
treated her when she was in
Oh,
the
that's wonderful.
hospital um,
Mhm.
for COVID, actually earlier this year. But so we're going to kick it off on that day. Of course, leading up, we're going to do some social media posts to get people
Mhm.
primed and ready. Again, we know that success doesn't happen just because we post something in one day. There's a lot of work that has to go into that. So talking to people, encouraging them, hopefully lining up and again, I know this is very late to be saying hopefully. So do as I say, not as I do. Plan that a month before now. But a challenge gift or a matching gift so that we can
Mhm.
announce that on that day as well, and really kick it off on Giving Tuesday, but keep that momentum as the giving during the season as we come up to the end of the new
Sure.
year. I think it's also important for all of us in the fundraising world to be reminding people of a couple things as we come to the year end and try and build those messages in, the IRA gifts that people can give if they have to take their minimum required distribution.
Mhm.
There's some great things around that this year because of the CARES Act, and how that's been broadened a little bit about some of the benefits that you can get for giving in that way. And also the $300 off the top charitable deduction that people can take when they file their taxes, even if they're not itemizing. So I don't
Mhm.
itemize, but I can take a $300 deduction of
Right.
my charitable giving this year. And so I think, we can also do some education for people, for donors who
Mhm.
are giving, to say there's some extra benefits if you're generous this year that you can realize.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, as we're coming down here to the end of our hour, I want to say that as the Give WP person in this chat, I want to thank you both so much, not only for being here, but um, for Give being part of your story, because it's because of organizations like yours that we are able to help make an impact in the world. So when people ask me what my job is, I tell them, yes, I work for a software company because that's what makes sense. But I can also say that I feel like I make a difference in the world because what I do actually empowers what you all do. So thank you for all that you're doing to make our world a better place and for allowing Give to be part of that story. So thank you so much for that. Thanks so much for being here today. Lauren, it's great to talk to you as always. Emily, the same. And what's wonderful is just because you're on a Give story today doesn't mean your story ends. We know that you're all both going on to do even bigger and better things. And we're, like I said, we're happy to be part of that process. So much success to both of you, and thank you for being here with me today. It's been a pleasure to hear your story, Emily, and Lauren, for you to share in this as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Emily, it was great to hear your story. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. And it gives a great product, and it certainly helps us realize the success that we have realized. So we're really appreciative to be a partner with you in that.
Oh, thank you so much. It's wonderful. And we look forward to updates as we go forward in the next year. Hopefully we'll all be able to someday meet in person and hug and things that we have been missing during COVID. But it's so great that that you're able to do what you can in spite of the current challenges and to be as successful as you are. So thanks again for being here, and happy Thanksgiving next week to you, Emily. I know, Lauren, yours was last month.
Back in October, yeah.
But and happy holiday season to you both. Thanks so much.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.